Former boss of the WWE, Vince McMahon, has been accused of sex trafficking and sexual abuse by a former WWE staffer that he apparently paid to keep quiet. That employee is Janel Grant, former employee of the company. And we're gonna provide some of the details that have been unveiled in this lawsuit, but you need to understand, if it's not already obvious, that this is content that has to do with sexual abuse, sexual trafficking, gaslighting, a whole lot of different stuff all in that area. So if that is something that may be distressing to you, bear that in mind going forward. But here's apparently how the relationship that is detailed in this lawsuit began between Janel Grant and Vince McMahon. In their first meeting, McMahon allegedly shared intimate details about his life, including, quote, current family dynamics, including his separation from Linda McMahon, his traumatic childhood, growing up in poverty. And he told her that he didn't just want to give her a job, but give her a life, and that he would find her a place at the WWE. But almost instantaneously, he began overstepping the boundaries of an employer-employee relationship, beginning to groom Janel Grant for sexual exploitation, such as by appearing before her in his underwear, asking her for kisses, and making sexual advances. And it escalated incredibly quickly from there. McMahon allegedly demanded that Grant send him explicit photos and engaged in sexual behavior that the lawsuit claims was aggressive, causing physical injuries, including bleeding and pain from forceful use of sex toys. As one of the more bizarre details in this lawsuit, Vince McMahon is alleged to have named the sex toys based on their color after current superstars of the WWE. There's a lot psychologically to delve into there. Unfortunately, we don't have time because we're gonna focus on the crimes, but Jesus. The lawsuit also includes purported texts from McMahon to the employee in which he describes sexual fantasies, as well as sharing that he had shown male WWE employees her explicit photos, as well as stories about her sexual behaviors. Once she was working at the headquarters in Connecticut, the abuse intensified. He apparently took nude photos and videos of her while having sex with her, which he used to intimidate her into silence. And then we transitioned into the actual sex trafficking when he pressured Grant in the lawsuit into threesomes with other men, including McMahon's physical therapist and another executive at the WWE, who is also named as a lawsuit as a defendant in the lawsuit. He apparently, that executive, as well as Vince McMahon, would sexually assault her while other colleagues were working in the area. So look, there's a lot that's being alleged about Vince McMahon and this executive, but also it describes a system wherein it is hard to not believe that many people knew that something was going on. Now, they are not named as defendants in this, and we don't know for sure how many people are still at the WWE that had potentially good reason to know that something bad was happening. But that is the story that is being sketched out here. Brett, what do you make of this?
Do the law stuff, do it for real, have the trial, find out what happened, and then act accordingly, is my position on this. Basically, yeah, I don't know. It's tough, man. This is one of the weirdest discussions where like it looks like everything horrible is horrible. And it looks like it happened, and at the same time, like I did a lot of talking during the Me Too movement, and I got lost along the way as to where I was supposed to say that things actually happened. It didn't happen. Working at a news agency, you have to report it like this, like it's alleged until it gets proven in a court of law. If there's a conviction or a confession, then I get to say he did it. It happened 100%. I don't think that position feels wildly horrible to women. It makes me feel like a monster to say, like, look at what was alleged. It is bad. It's the worst thing I've ever heard. I can't believe something like that happened. And then I have to say, but I can't say that. I have to say allegedly. And then I have to have confidence in the legal system to find a solution. And if I'm looking at Donald Trump and E. Jean Carroll, it looks like the things I felt that exact same way about before were carried out in a court of law, and he was found guilty. So I get to have, I don't know what to do. You either do or you don't have faith in the legal system. If you don't have faith in the legal system, you got to come armed with actual facts and instances where it let people down. And people do that all the time. It's one of the most difficult ways to have a conversation around this, period. And it's one of the most frustrating things about our legal system, but it's also one of the most essential things about our legal system. I take heart in knowing that the burden of proof for a conviction to send someone to jail is higher than for them to pay damages to the people that were affected. And I get frustrated that a lot of times they settle because of that. And I never ever get to find out what happened, because at the end of that discussion, there's a non-disclosure agreement or no admission of fault.
In many cases, yeah. Yeah, and look, and we know specifically with Vince McMahon, he apparently has paid more than $10 million over the years in hush money to different women.
But I'm not going to give people the catharsis that they want. It sucks, and I hate that about myself, because in this, it's like I know people who have settled lawsuits essentially because it was cheaper than and less risky than going to prison to prove, going to court to prove their actual innocence.
Yeah.
Like that happens, and you can't deny that. Now, I know I can feel people be like, "Oh God," but like believe people because X% of them are correct. It's like I believe you, but am I willing to take the next step and say with great confidence one way or the other? Is that incumbent upon me? A lot of people are saying I'm letting down an entire movement of people that it needs to happen, and it might be a little messy. I totally understand that, but it's one of the most difficult decisions or discussions to have for all of the reasons that I just mentioned. And it's a lot easier for me in many scenarios to come on a show like this or any show, so to speak, and just say like, man, he's a monster, let's get him. Because that's what I want to do, but I can't say that until the court of law has really proven that in its official proceedings.
What about a compromise where because this has not been fully adjudicated, and because we take our ethical responsibilities as people who discuss the news more seriously than seemingly anyone who does a show like this, we cannot declare that he is a monster on this. But we can declare that he's a monster. You don't need to talk about any of the details of this. Like if you do a little bit of reading about Vince McMahon, the things that he's done, not even just the areas of misogyny and sexual assault, which by the way, this is the most recent case that alleges that, but there are stories going back literally to the 80s that have to do with that sort of thing. So again, I would recommend the Behind the Bastards series of videos. It's like 6 hours on Vince McMahon, and there was a lot of content to put in there. No, he is a guy that he's been bad for a long time. We don't know for sure about all of these current allegations, and that is why we are doing the thing we're supposed to do, which includes not only saying that they are allegations, but also there is a wrestler who is alluded to in this that was involved with Janel Grant, and there are specific things about him. It is fairly clear who it is, and he is a current wrestler. But I guess we're not supposed to identify who they are because it's not clear in the lawsuit, and we have to let the legal process go through. But if what is alleged is true, and if it is the person we think it is, then dear God, because Vince McMahon is no longer in charge of the WWE, but this superstar is still in the WWE, at least on a part-time basis. I'm not saying who they are.
No one knows, John. You're
and
the
I'm not
only
going to make an allusion to their intro music or anything, but anyway, look, thank God, I will say that he is not in charge anymore, and that the many women who work both in the ring and behind the scenes in a variety of different forms no longer have even the chance of being exposed to anything. Not to comment on these particular allegations, but it is very good to have them out of there. Now, my fear, and I would be one of the last things I say is, as I alleged, or as I guess hinted at, there's so much about this that was very public, and Vince McMahon is out, and some of the other execs might be out, but not everybody from that time is out. And some of these people have much squeakier clean reputations, and yet they were around for a long time during this time. So we don't know what they knew or when they knew it or what power they had to do anything about it. But that makes me a little bit queasy about the current status quo there. So that's all I'll say. I don't want to get in any legal trouble either.